Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our November town meeting. I'm Rafael Avila. I'm going to be your host today. And, okay. How's that? Thank you. So let's officially open up our meeting this morning by inviting Maria LaSala up. Thank you.
Hello, friends. I'm Maria LaSala. I'm the Spiritual Care Coordinator at Whitney Center. It's good to be with you today. In August, I had a chance to attend a farewell party for a friend who was moving to Boston. I'd known Andrew for over a dozen years, beginning with his first visit to the First Presbyterian Church of New Haven, where I was then serving as pastor. Over those years, Andrew and I worked together at the Divinity School, attended Yale Camerata concerts, and often shared meals at one another's homes. Andrew is Scottish, a native of Glasgow, where my husband's ancestors hailed. And so, in addition to our shared love of theology and the Bible, we also enjoyed talking about our walks in the Highlands of Scotland, hanging out in Edinburgh, and for me, the perils of driving on the wrong side of the street. You are, by now, probably wondering why I am telling you all this about my friend Andrew, someone you don't know, who isn't famous, and who no longer lives in the New Haven area. Well, at his farewell party, a curious thing happened. Lots of folks had come out to say goodbye to Andrew. The room was quite crowded. I finally spotted him from across the bar and headed his way. He was surrounded by other friends, but I found a way into the circle to give him a hug and to congratulate him on his new job and to say goodbye. I then began to remind Andrew of how important he had been in my life, sharing with him a few of the stories of our shared love for Scotland, our delight in teaching divinity students, and how much fun we always had when we shared a meal together. I thanked him for his years of friendship and abiding support. Now, all of that took only a few minutes, so I was surprised when a man who was standing across from me in the circle said, "Maria, it sounds like we are at a funeral." I paused for a moment and realized that perhaps my words about my friend did sound like the things one says at a funeral. So I laughed with them and said, "I just wanted Andrew to know how important he has been in my life, to celebrate the things we have done together, and to thank him for the ways his friendship has mattered to me." And the people in the circle all nodded. I think we were all suddenly aware that we need not wait until someone dies to let them know how they mattered in our lives. It is important to offer such affirmations and celebrations while people are alive to hear them. And I know I am not the only one who thinks this. At this month's Death Cafe, we shared a similar sentiment. Nearly everyone present at that gathering said, "Tell people what they mean to you while they are alive, and let people tell you what you mean to them while you are alive." Words to live by for sure. And now we pause to remember that since our last town meeting, George Ongley and Kai Erickson have died. Thank you for making sure that George and Kai knew how they mattered in our community. So let us pause and give thanks for their lives lived among us. Friends, this is my invitation to you this month. Let the people you love, the people who support you and encourage you and make your life fuller, know how much you care about them. Don't hesitate. Don't wait. And when someone begins to tell you how much you mean to them, try not to turn away. Cherish the words you hear, remembering how rich and full our lives can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. At this time, I'd like to invite Judith Normandin, our Residence Council Vice President. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Judith Normandin, the Vice President of the Residence Council, replacing John Tully while he's away in Japan, having a good time with the wrestlers in Japan. We just got pictures from him. It was wonderful. So we had a busy week in terms of the Residence Council. We had the candidates forum yesterday with 6 of our 7 candidates presenting. It was very entertaining, and the ballots will be put together and voting will start over the weekend. And we have until December 2nd to get all of our ballots in terms of the 4 open positions on the Residence Council. At the residents meeting that we had this week, there were 4 items that we talked about that needed to be put forward to the town meeting. Those 4 items are the strategic dining services communication to the residents on their 90-day reports. How will that be communicated? That's the one item. The next item, which was a big concern, was around the Whitney Center and the Thrive at Home trips. The question is, what is the liability of a resident who acts as a trip organizer or a co-leader on those trips? The next item was the ICE policy. We know there's an ICE policy, but the question was, have the security staff and the desks been trained in that policy? And the 4th item was the water shutoff in the north building. It's a very long shutoff, and we're wondering how can we better plan for disabled residents and their candidates during a long water shutoff. So that's it, but Fred wanted me to remind you all that we're way behind on the Employees Appreciation Fund, and people who haven't been giving will be contacted by a member of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. A big welcome to our new residents and members. We have Elaine Haught, apartment 536, Robert and Elizabeth Parker, apartment 208, Carolyn Covell, a Thrive at Home member, Janet Rosen, Thrive at Home member, Joseph and Myra Zelson, also Thrive at Home members, and our very own Judith has now become a Thrive at Home member as well. So we're glad everyone is with us. We're going to go ahead and move right over to departmental updates. And I'd like to begin with Jeannie Bond, who's Director of Sales over at Meadow Mills.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Raise your hand. No, just kidding. I want to begin with a quote Mother Teresa once said, "It's not how much we give, but how much love we put into giving." And I don't know if you've noticed, many of you may have the boxes. They're like decorated in Christmas wrapping paper with a sign for our hats, gloves, and socks donation. They're located in the the south and north reception areas, as well as a bistro. So I encourage everyone to please donate these items. Please donate new and unused items so that I can bring them over to the senior center for their holiday gift run coming up. The last day to donate is December 1st. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Up next, Michelle Ackerman, our Senior Director of Clinical Operations.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Ackerman. I'm the Senior Director of Clinical Operations. Just like to put in a plug for the Wellness Center. We still have flu vaccines available for anyone who needs their flu vaccine. And we are also doing the COVID vaccine clinic right now if you need to get that one. That is the Moderna vaccine if you're looking for that booster. Anybody have any questions? Nope. All right, thank you.
Did anybody have any questions for Jeannie and the drive there? We didn't give an opportunity for that. None? Great. Up next, Mike Lutz from our maintenance team. All right, Mike.
Good morning. I'm Michael Lutz, the Technical Maintenance Supervisor. I wanted to start off with a funny joke, hopefully. On what grounds did the police arrest the devil? They got him on possession. One more. Who is the roundest knight in King Arthur's court? Circumference. Alrighty. So I wanted to take a moment to address our recent water shutdown. During the shutdown, we took the opportunity to complete several upgrade projects at once to improve the overall system and reduce future disruptions. We intentionally scheduled a later start time to allow everyone to complete their morning routines and showers. The other necessary water use as well. But we understand that the shutdown affected some people more than others. Moving forward, if we have a similar situation, we encourage you to reach out to your liaison for options. They can help research possible resources or options that may help ease the impact of a longer outage. We appreciate everyone's patience and understanding as we continue to make important improvements to our systems. Anybody have any questions? Yes. We're gonna leave North Building alone for a little while. We're gonna maybe get your neighbors. Anybody else? Anything? All right, so I wanted to talk about the North Building heating system. Right now, the control software that manages the valves is outdated and inaccessible without a major upgrade. As a result, I have to manually adjust the valves on individual units to maintain proper heat levels. While most systems can be still controlled through thermostats or the building maintenance system, some units are not fully integrated, limiting remote control and automation. To address this issue, we've partnered with an engineering company that is currently designing a new, modern control system. This upgrade will restore full control, improve efficiency, and eliminate the need for manual adjustments. However, it's an expensive and complex project, and the implementation will take time. In the meantime, manual valve adjustments are necessary to keep the system running effectively. We're also completing this project in phases. So, anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
So, Mike, you know, I've had a number of residents come and speak to me about how cold it is in particular places. So, if you're manually adjusting, are you able to fix those areas? They're talking about the bistro being cold in places, and center stage being cold in places, and the corridors particularly being cold. Are you able to adjust those?
The bistro's been resolved to this point. It's set at one temperature and it audibly goes heat to cold to keep it at that common temperature. The center stage I have to adjust, and the hallways by the elevators, the large vents, it's a cooling option that happens for your fan in your bathroom, and I can only adjust the amount of flow that's going, and we're gonna test that. So it's not as strong of a wind, but it's not a heating thing, it's more of a makeup air system.
So do you have a time frame on getting, you know, the thing fixed with the experts from outside?
Well, we're in the engineering process right now, and basically we'll be able to implement as soon as we can for the next stage.
They haven't told you how long it's gonna take?
No, unfortunately.
Well, I hope it's before winter.
No, it won't be before winter, not this year.
Oh, that was your question.
Anybody else?
The sixth floor,
Yes,
in the evening or at night to watch movies, it's freezing up there.
yep. We have other issues that are involved as far as, well, you know, there's need to be replacement of windows and stuff like that, but that's not really affecting the temperature as much. We have boilers on the roof that are checked daily. That is one of the pieces that's stuck inside the software that we can't adjust. So we have to do what we can with making sure the boilers are working, and then in the summer, making sure our main AC is working up there. But that's all intended to be on the automatic process as well. So we won't have that issue as, hopefully.
So, Mike, was there a way to check this before the fall season so that you knew you were in a difficult position and could have done it all earlier, preventive, you know, maintenance?
It is on preventive maintenance, but some days are warm and some days are cold, so it has to be adjusted like that.
So, I mean, if you had done it earlier before it was necessary, perhaps we wouldn't have run into it.
This has been ongoing. We've been doing this for at least a year. So it's not something I didn't start yet. It just some units were running colder. We had to adjust and monitor. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. What I heard was it's a very complex issue because it requires us to upgrade our infrastructure, our building management system. It's a multi-phase process. And at this time, it sounds like, Mike, you have to monitor the weather conditions, whether it's going to be warm, whether it's going to be cold, and you and someone from your team needs to make these adjustments. It's not easy. So, but I also heard that there's some inconsistencies with the temps for our evening programs. So perhaps we could work on ensuring that we know what programming is occurring outside of our normal hours and adjust for those things accordingly to improve that experience in the evening as well. So thank you for doing that. Up next is Lynn Nastri and Mike Durazio, our dining services managers.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Lynn Nastri, Dining Services Manager. Mike, we're fighting now because you're telling jokes. Okay. So you know I'm starting with my jokes. What happens when you mix broccoli and melon? You get a very depressed vegetable called melancholy. How come chickens don't play basketball? Too many fouls. All right, so moving on to our dining report. By popular demand, Lobster Roll Friday is back this Friday in the bistro from 11:30 to 1:30. It is posted on K4 and emails did go out. It's also posted in the venue. So we look forward to seeing everybody in the bistro on Friday. Upcoming holiday, Thanksgiving. Reservations are now being taken for the Thanksgiving dinner. We will have 3 seatings available, 12, 1, and 2 p.m. Please call Lakeisha on the reservation line to schedule your seating. Reservations are required for the holidays. And a gentle reminder that the always available, the left-hand side of the menu in center stage is not available during holiday dinners. The menu will be posted to K4 and all other appropriate areas by the end of today. Feedback forms. We continue to be in a little bit of a slump. We only had a handful of comment cards submitted for each venue this past month. So we encourage you to still fill out the forms. This helps us hear all your accolades, but also your concerns as well. One of the topics that was brought up was scrambled eggs. You are able to order scrambled eggs in the bistro for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Moving on, we know that you are curious to hear about the SDS survey results. We have put together key takeaways. They include the following: strong appreciation for the friendliness and helpfulness of the dining staff, opportunities to enhance menu variety and rotation, food consistency and temperature, and dietary labeling, a desire for clearer communication around menu descriptions, healthy options, and allergen information, operational and service-related opportunities tied to training, supply availability, and billing accuracy. Based on this input and SDS analysis, our initial focus areas over the next 90 days will include software systems training for team members, food vendor transition to strengthen quality and reliability, resident communication enhancement and feedback loops, new menu development emphasizing rotation, seasonality, and healthful options, installation of new technology supporting efficiency and engagement, front and the back of house training to reinforce service standards and recipe consistency. As the plan takes clearer shape, we will provide structured updates outlining timeliness, responsibilities, and progress milestones. A question has been asked by a few: how will the SDS periodic updates be communicated to residents? Answer is a newsletter, a monthly newsletter, K4, the dining committee, and town meetings. The complete results from the survey will be posted to K4 and email, and this will be done by the end of today. That concludes our report. Does anybody have any questions? Dr. Askenase?
Your list was kind of opaque. I don't really know what the summary is. Can you give us just sort of regular language is what the
So
recommendations were?
The full summary is going to be put on K4. It's quite in-depth, so it will be on K4 and also sent out email form.
I guess that'll do.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Lynn. I'm going to invite Sean O'Connor, Vice President of Marketing and Sales.
All right. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? All right. I'm going to start off by saying we are pulling into the end of the year. So the fun that I have had this year will start right back up on January 1 when Jeff comes into my office and says, "How are we doing?" But the good news is we are continuing. I know I sound like a broken record up here. I'd rather sound like a broken record than what I sounded like the first couple of years I was here. We currently have 13 apartments available. 62% of them are one bedrooms, 38% are two bedrooms, and all of them are located in the north building. We've had 23 releases, so if you pay attention and you write down, you'll see we were a little bit behind for the year, but just recently we've gotten a grouping of apartments, which is bad news and good news because we're going to have that inventory when we start up again in January. There are 6 apartments currently reserved or on hold, and 3 are going through the process, and the other 3 have already been approved and have 10%ed on their apartments. We've had 3 new residents settle, that means pay for their apartments, since our last town hall, and we're anticipating another 4 before the end of the year. We are at 94% reserved and occupied. The wait list, we've added 28 people this year to the wait list. Some of those people have actually moved in, but we've added 28 people to the wait list, which is great. Meadow Mills, we had 2 move-ins since the last town hall, which is good news. And then we're working with another 2 families who might make a move before the end of the year. And then for Thrive at Home, we've added 15 new members to Thrive at Home. We have 11 applications that are in process, and we currently have 120 active members in the program itself. So that is my report. Any questions that people have? Okay, what is our percent occupancy at Meadow Mills? We're currently at 55%. We had been at 50%. We have 60 units that are available over there, and we have, not available. No, let me take that back. We have 60 units total over there, and currently we have 35 of those reserved with another 2 coming. Yeah. Other questions? Okay, the other question was, and the health center. Currently, last month we were running around 27 out of 30 on average. The health center has really seen an uptick in the last couple months. Yeah. Okay, the question was, is that all residents, meaning in the health center? I certainly hope not. No, that is people coming for rehab services from the outside, from local hospitals. Yeah. Other questions? Oh, don't come up. I got my joke. Okay? Look at, he's jumping the gun. And I agree with Lynn that Mike jumping on the bandwagon, not good. So, anyway, why did the math book look so sad? It had too many problems. All right. There you go, Ralph.
I wasn't jumping the gun. I was trying to save everyone from that poor joke. Terrible. So from the technology team, last month I demonstrated the new technology that we were implementing, which is to move away from a more manual process for those safety checks to an automated one using motion sensors. We have completed that project. It is now officially live, as we call it, fully functioning as of this morning. And what that means is that our nursing department will now receive a report daily, right around 12 p.m., If there is no motion in your apartment between 5 a.m. and roughly 12 p.m. And the process for them is, so they'll get a list, probably a much shorter list now. They will first make a phone call, perform a safety check, make sure you're okay. If you don't answer, then they will visit your apartment, knock on the door, ring the bell, and just make sure that you're safe. So that project is officially launched and working. So this is like a record time town meeting. I don't know that I've ever experienced one in 30 minutes. It's not over yet? Are there any just general questions? Yep.
Raphael, we've heard that there may be an effort to recruit volunteers to help with the IT on trivial matters. Could you explain or at least comment on that?
Sure. So, you know, we recognize that technology is not today what it was several years ago. With the Internet of Things, more and more is just technology driven. Pretty much everything around us is connected in some fashion. Our phones, our televisions, you name it. And it's becoming a bit difficult for the technology team to sustain the response times to your work requests that we once had. And I'll give you an example. A few years ago, you purchased a new television, you would call on IT, they would unbox the television, they would install it, they would scan it, you receive the 82 channels that we provide, and we're done. 15, 20 minutes, tops. Today, because now we're dealing with more technology, more services, more opportunities from the TV, those work orders kind of go like this now. We unbox the television, set it up, scan it, you get your channels. Well, now you want maybe Amazon Prime. You also have a Netflix account. Maybe you have Peacock, right? We have to install those services. In some cases, well, I don't know the password, or I forgot my credentials, so we have to go through a password reset with you. So what once took us 15, 20 minutes is now taking us about an hour. And on any given day, when I look at the work queue, primarily that Connor works through, it's about 20 to 25 work orders daily. And just do the math there. Typically works 8 hours a day. Work orders are taking half hour, an hour, in some cases longer. So it's becoming harder. So what do we do? What do we do about that? Well, the answer isn't just to hire another technician, because I don't know that is going to reduce the demand or the need, because it's just going to get more and more. So we need to look at different options, different models on how we could, at the end of the day, we want everyone to remain connected. Some of you still work, whatever it is. So some ideas that we were discussing, a few different models is, can we leverage an outside entity to sort of support us a little bit? Can we partner with maybe Dorvey to take on some of the level 1 type things? Do we need to partner with schools, internships, those that are looking for internship hours to be able to graduate? Can we bring those folks here? And also through the Communications and Technology Committee, what if we were able to get a group of residents that want to sort of contribute to this challenge, to take on some work orders? And we can work out the how and what that's going to look like. So there's been conversation in that committee. What could that look like? How many residents could we get? To where you can just rely on each other for that support as well. So those are the conversations that we're having. There's not just one thing, I think, that's going to provide a solution. I think it's going to be a combination of all of those things that I just mentioned. Who would like to really tackle that question in depth? I don't want to I don't want to miss the finer details.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Pandolfi. Dorvy is a company that Whitney Center actually invested in the beginning. It is a company that is designed to help address these types of things in life, either whether it's home maintenance services, whether it's kind of curating different aspects of your life to enhance it in ways or just make it easier. But it is essentially a concierge service. So you can call Dorvy. It is a benefit to all of you. We did some presentations a while back. We can do it again if we need to. But Dorvy is a service that you can call and say, hey, I want to take a trip to New York City. Can you get together a driver and tickets or whatever it is? For our Thrive at Home members, they can call and say, I don't want to rake leaves anymore. Can somebody come over and rake leaves? Can you send me somebody to clean the house? Can you do this on a regular basis? You can get multiple services from Dorvy. And what Dorvy does is not only do they vet all of the vendors that they use, so you know that the people coming to you are going to be trusted and deliver you a good service. Dorvy will actually work with you to create the service that you want, the frequency that you want, the appointments, all of that. They'll do all of that for you so that when the vendor comes, they can give you the service. Dorvy will call back, ask about your experience with it, guarantee your satisfaction with it. And if you have multiple services that you use within the month, they will consolidate all of that billing into one bill. So the vendors pay Dorvy and you pay Dorvy, or Dorvy pays the vendors, you pay Dorvy. So this way you're not haggling back and forth with vendors, trying to figure out payment options or anything like that. You can do everything pretty easily just through credit card through Dorvy. Did I forget anything?
It's available to Thrive at Home members.
Yep. It's available to residents. It's available to Thrive at Home members. Yeah. Yeah. Is there a question?
Different topic.
Oh, okay. Any other questions? So we did do a presentation on Dorvy a while back. I can repost that to K4, so all of you have that information. You can see that video again. If you have any questions, certainly reach out. There is a dedicated concierge person through Dorvy. Her name is Kat. She's amazing. You just need to call her. You can talk through any questions, any concerns, ask if they have this type of service. If they don't, they are pretty great at trying to find that service too. So, yes?
Maybe we should mention, we have some financial interest with Dorvy, don't we?
We do, yep. So Whitney Center was an early investor in Dorvy. And so what Dorvy did, it's a group that Mike is a part of. It became kind of this ideas from a bunch of different leading age senior living providers saying, like, we need some help, we need some assistance, not only for our members and residents, it could be for staffing, whatever it is, to try to help kind of shore up some of these gaps that Raphael was just talking about. And so they've been a great partner to work with. They are exclusively offered to leading age providers, so the not-for-profit providers across the country. They've grown. They have a very strong team. They've been a pleasure to work with. Yes?
I just want to say publicly to thank the IT service, Raphael, Nick, and Connor, for replacing the old projector that was on the 6th floor with a brand-new modern laser projector.
Nice.
And in the process of replacing that, they simplified the wiring and the connections so that now showing movies on the 6th floor is exactly the same as showing movies in the CAC. It's really quite simple now. And so this has a long-term benefit of people, looking for folks who want to volunteer to show movies, et cetera, in the future. So it's a beautiful machine. It's a laser-driven machine. The image is crystal clear, but the best part of it is that it has simplified the entire process of showing a film, whether it's on a DVD or whether you're streaming it from a laptop. It's really amazing what that you guys have done, and I thank you.
Fantastic. Any questions on Dorvey? Yeah.
Yes, the question is, for people with low vision, what kind of access do they have to Dorvey? And K4 can't always be read by some of these folks. So I
So
throw
you're-
it out at you.
So Dorvey is open to everybody. If you have low vision, you can call them. You don't have to do it. You don't have to request anything online. You can actually talk to a person as well. As far as me posting information about Dorvey, you're talking about the video on K4.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
that.
I can make that available to the liaisons. So if they want to share the video by email, we can do that. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This will not come as a surprise to Raphael and Janet Fowler and Ken Sandberg and so forth, but Ron Brun's question about low vision, I have been requesting and asking whether the printed form of the weekly events calendar, which is so impossible to read for a person with low vision, about why, even if it can't be enlarged, why can't the event be in dark print, which is a lot easier to figure out than the existing light print? And I know that it's been worked on, and I understand it may be related to a K4 problem, but I think that that's a really fundamental, it's very important to be able to see a whole week's events laid out in the format that you have, but what can be done to improve the legibility?
Okay. I'll let you take that.
You don't want to take it? It's, I recognize, Elaine, that it's a challenge for some folks. The font, the color, things that can't be in bold. I get it. The challenge with this specific issue is that we are operating within the constraints of K4. Now, they have to recognize who the customer is, right? It's not a 25-year-old, frankly, that is using K4. In this case, it's all of you. And there's some challenges that come with some of that. They need to hear this. They need to hear this from our Communications and Technology Committee. They need to hear the voice of our residents, and we try to do that. And we run into some obstacles sometimes because it might not necessarily be something on their immediate roadmap. But we're trying. We're trying to get them to make changes. And you have to understand that when we are using a third-party application like K4, right? It's not a software that we've developed or we own. We subscribe to K4. Whatever changes they make will not just be for the Whitney Center customers. It will be for all of the communities they serve. So those types of decisions have to be factored in. So what we've heard you, and what we've been exploring is other options. Could we change the calendar? Should we move away from a calendar format to more of a list? But we don't want to make those decisions on our own. We have to invite the committee in, maybe the K4 task force, to just partner with us on what a solution might be. With that being said, what I will say is that we aren't necessarily tied to K4. We love working with them. We see the vision. But sometimes we find that a product just isn't meeting our needs any longer. Or perhaps our partners change their strategy, want to go in a different direction. We have begun the work of vetting other K4 type products because we want to be ahead of it as well. We want to know what others are doing. And we have presented all of the pain points that we've heard from some of you, like the calendar, like not being able to add an event to your calendar on your iPhone, right? Not being able to click links in a PDF, right? We are vetting other solutions, and we have specifically asked them to demonstrate to us how you're going to solve these pain points. So we're doing that work. And it might mean that we'll find something that's 100 times better than K4, and maybe we'll bring that in. Or we might find that the other softwares kind of work the same way. But your challenges are being heard, and we are trying to address them the best we can.
I have a
Yes.
question, and other people around me have the same ones. Could you go back on Dorvey and really explain to us how one contacts Dorvey? What is the phone number? What is the actual way in which you connect to Dorvey?
Very good question. You can connect through Dorvey through their website or by a phone number, and I will post all that information to K4. I don't have it on me, otherwise I'd share it right now. But you can contact them and actually talk to a live person who's based here in the United States. Okay.
I just want to comment that I used Dorvey once, and that was because I went to the event that they had here where there were 4 residents because there was a conflict of another happening at Whitney Center. So that perhaps you should encourage them to have another event so that they can explain. It was very good. I would recommend it. And perhaps you should do that.
If anyone's in a panic for the number, I happen to have it now. I can shout it out.
Go ahead.
203-941-7980.
Thank you. So it's good. This is a good conversation. I'm Mike Rambros. I'm the president and CEO here, and we have a lot of time left, and I don't plan on filling it unless you really, really want to hear me talk for another hour. But there are a few things I just want to reflect on. You know, the Dorvey conversation is a good one because it, as Michelle was explaining, the creation of that company came from a collaboration between 16 collaboration of 16 leaders in aging services across the country, and Whitney Center was part of that group through a peer group to which I belong. And the reason that we decided to move into that space was primarily because of our at-home program of Thrive at Home. And what we recognized was there was an opportunity for a lot of front-end services that aren't covered by Thrive at Home to be front-end services to be provided to our Thrive at Home members to help them live better lives, to be healthier, to minimize the risks associated with household chores and things like that. And so that's how we started that. Currently, as Michelle said, it's growing. We expect by the end of next year for Dorvey to be in 400 communities across the country. And we're starting to see, I think this is year 3, if I'm not mistaken, right? We're starting to see that small company turn a profit. And now we just have a small ownership stake in it, but we are not actively engaged in the company. If you have more questions about that structure, please do reach out, and I'll be happy to talk about it. I'm glad it came up because it is related to other things that we're doing. Just I guess it was last week, I've lost track of time already, that a few members of the management team and a resident, Fred Morrison, attended the Leading Age Conference in Boston. And we go every year to learn about what's happening in senior living and aging services across the country. We often find resources that we didn't know existed. A lot of times we're presenting. Michelle has presented quite a bit. She helps to run a national collaboration of continuing care at home organizations to look at how that service line can be improved and how that can grow. And a number of us participate at many levels in that forum. There's a lot we learn there. And we're going to get together over the next week or so and debrief that, and then we'll have some takeaways that I'd like to bring back to you probably at the December town meeting. One of the things that we look at, that I try to do, is figure out how are we doing in terms of the advancing our mission that we have in front of us relative to other organizations. I take a look at and I listen for innovation. I listen for different kind of thinking that's applied to the challenges that we have. So for example, K4. K4 was we brought K4 into Whitney Center as a result of a couple of conferences that we attended years ago and thought, okay, this is where things are going, let's see how this works. And as Raf said, we might find over time that these services no longer meet the needs or aren't responsive to the needs that are being expressed by you all. And so it's a hard place to be, to be in the middle, right? To hear the issues that need to be addressed, convey those to an organization like K4 and wait for them to respond. So as that's happening, we're also evaluating other solutions, whether it's here, site assistance with visual needs or hearing needs, ambulatory needs, all of these things. Technology is a big topic of conversation these days, as you can imagine, and the use of artificial intelligence specifically is a big conversation as it relates to how can we improve quality of life, the experience for the residents and members we serve, as well as how do we contend with the continuing struggles that the whole country is seeing, in fact, the world is seeing in terms of labor. How do we attract people in the workforce? How do we bring them on board and keep them engaged? That's a challenge for everybody. And so we want to continue to think outside the box. We want to continue to think about alternative options for the everyday challenges that you all are facing and that our staff are facing. And so over the next few months and next year, we're going to be talking more about these kinds of things that we want to try. But there's a balance here that we have to keep in mind, right? And I'm constantly reminded of this, that your time horizon is not the same as my time horizon. And we have to balance what we're doing in the near term. What are we doing today and tomorrow, as well as how are we planning for the future? And so this is a dynamic that we're always gonna contend with. It's a tension that has to be managed. It can't be solved. And so the issues of K4 and being able to use it effectively, we want to solve that, as Raf said, in the near term, but we also have to think long term. Is K4 the right solution for us going forward? Are they planning to grow in a way that's aligned with what we need? And if not, are there other options? But then we introduce the concept of change, right? To change from one system to another is a big deal, because you all learn that system, we all get comfortable within a system, and then we have to now disrupt that comfort, right? Push us out of our comfort zone to change the system to better meet the needs that we're expressing. So these are just challenges of a community like Whitney Center, and we're not alone. I don't know if that might be cold comfort to some of you, but we are collaborating with many other organizations to figure things out so that we can continually add value to the experience that you have here at Whitney Center. A couple things I just want to mention. So as we balance sort of what we need to do today and what we need to do for the long term, there's always a financial component to that. And so Mike Lutz was talking about the system that controls the valves for the heating and the cooling and the automation of that. That's a hefty investment. It's likely to be $750,000 to revamp the entire system. And what we have to do is evaluate those dollars against spending alternative uses of those same dollars. For example, we have a big challenge for the north parking lot that you may or may not be aware of. And that challenge is that the ground underneath the parking lot is caving in. Right? There's actually a geothermal well under there that was installed when Whitney Center was built, and the support of the ground that's under the parking lot is we're having some drainage issues. We're having some structural issues. There's a lot that needs to be tended to, and it's a big engineering project. That is a hefty project in terms of dollars. So we have to evaluate that. That's a potential safety issue, right, against the dollars spent on the building management system that Mike was talking about, right? That isn't necessarily safety, but it's certainly a comfort issue, a convenience issue. And so, right, we only have so many dollars that we can spend these things, that we can spend on initiatives at a given time. And so again, I'm just painting that picture for you so that you understand that these things that we try to do, we want to do them all, but we just fiscally cannot. And so I just wanted to paint that picture. So Mike, he answered a question, and I think Chris, you said, well, I hope it's before the winter. Well, it's not, and he said, and I don't know if you heard him, he said it's not going to be, right? And so what that means, it doesn't mean that you will be uncomfortable. It means that Mike and Mel and that team are running around manually adjusting, right, until we could put the fix into place. And the fix may be a short-term fix for that piece of the building management system, but overall, we've got to address the entire thing. So these are the complexities that we operate with, just to give you sort of a peek behind the curtain. So when you're asking questions, when you're insisting on answers, we're with you. We're with you. We need your partnership, which is all about keep telling us what you're experiencing. It's not a bad thing to complain, honestly. You know, you might think we don't want to hear it, and sometimes I act like I don't want to hear it because I've heard it a lot, but at the same time, it matters. So your partnership in letting us know what you're experiencing and then helping us to implement the changes that we can figure out, understanding that change is hard, it takes time, and it takes dollars. And so that's the kind of partnership that I think we've done a really good job developing over the years, and we just sometimes need to lean on that a little bit more when we're experiencing these things. Yeah, Chris. Yeah.
And my question to you is, when we built the penthouse apartments or whatever they're called, there was money for the other part.
Yeah.
I believe. But it has not proceeded because the windows need to be
Yeah. So Chris's, if I can summarize Chris's question, it's what happened to the dollars that we supposedly had earmarked for the 6th floor commons when we did the apartments? Well, we actually didn't have dollars earmarked for the 6th floor commons. Those dollars were specifically for the apartments and the hallways to those apartments, because those are revenue-generating units. Common spaces do not generate revenue, and it's much harder to borrow money for projects that don't indicate how they're going to pay the money back. Okay, so we often cut. In fact, this building, the south building, I can tell you, is probably 15 to 18% smaller than we originally designed because of too much common space that we had initially in the design that we had to cut out because we were borrowing $90 million in 2009. And it was a hard thing to do back then. So what do you see? You see things like the Main Street Cafe over here, right? A Cafe on Main, thank you. You see things like the Cafe on Main because we actually had to cut out the common space that was programmed in, but the needs drive the, using those spaces differently. So going back to the sixth floor, so just this morning I had a meeting with a couple of team members regarding the capital projects for next year and how we're going to manage. Gosh, we've got millions and millions of dollars worth of capital projects that have been on a wish list for a long time. And the reality is that the dollars we bring in just don't cover it, and we have to figure out how do we get these things going in a way that we can afford in the short term, with some long-term goals. So we are working on a plan. We'll have a finalized capital list that I'll talk about at the end of next month's town meeting. We're going to do two things. It'll be posted. You'll know about it. We'll talk about the budget, the 2026 budget, and how that's constructed, what the different components are, and so to help you understand how these things work. And that's a good way to gain insight into the operations, right, of the organization. And along with that, we'll talk about the capital expense side of things and the projects that we plan on doing in 2026 and beyond, because some of them we have to push out because of dollars. And so just to give you a little insight, the top criteria in my mind in making a decision as to whether to do a project sooner than later is safety. Safety has to come first. If there's any potential for harm to residents or team members or visitors, that takes priority. So as you can imagine, that north parking lot's got me a little concerned. And so, right, so we've got to figure out that how to move that forward. And so following safety, then there's the operational efficiencies, life cycle type things, planned maintenance type criteria that we need to think about along with the resident experience. And so one of the things we're looking at doing, I'll just give you a little preview, is next year we're hoping we can factor into the capital budget some upgrade of the sixth floor, right? It's got to start with the windows, because if we don't replace those windows, we're just going to create more problems down the road. So the windows, and hopefully we can plug in some replacing the carpeting and getting some paint, different paint in there, and just cosmetically lifting the space a little bit. So we're working on those plans for next year. So I'll pause there. Any questions? And again, next month, we'll have a much more detailed conversation after the town meeting if you choose to stay. Okay. So I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dee Dee.
Mike, first of all, I want to say I think I speak for a lot of us. I'm glad we're here and not in some other place, even if it looks fancier.
You're right.
But I mean that, yeah. I want to ask you, can you give us a little information about the team meetings earlier this week?
Oh, yeah.
And tell us the goals, what you expect. Are you getting there? That would be nice.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So every year we do a management retreat. And it's really about helping our management team members to sort of refresh, sort of, get their bearings, helping them, equipping them with tools through education sessions and other kinds of resources so that they can be better, they can grow, and they can be better with their teams in delivering the services to you. So this year, we decided not to do an overnight trip. We've done that, try to do it as economically as we can. This year, we did a 2-day session. We did it at the View, which is the former Laurel View Golf Club here in Hampden. And we focused on a number of topics that have been coming up over and over again. In fact, the team that put it together, what they did was they organized our entire management team into groups to do presentations on these different topics. So the management team worked interdepartmentally to come together and create sessions on things like safety and courage. How do you act, with courage when you're not completely sure that you're on sound footing. There were other things like avoidance, avoiding difficult conversations, for example, avoiding difficult situations, and other kinds of things. I think there were 6 presentations overall. So we had those, and then I did 2 sessions on adding value. How do we add value as a team to our customer, residents, and members' experience? How do we know we're adding value? So we have to think about measures. How do we gauge whether you are not just satisfied, right, but whether you are engaged, whether you are achieving the goals that you have, right, as you continue living here? And how are we partnering with you in that work? And so we talked about that, adding value in terms of human contribution, operational contribution, and financial contribution to the organization and to the residents and members. So it's those kinds of things that we did. Is that sufficient? Okay. Steve?
Yes.
Mike, I want to thank you publicly again, but there are new people here, and some of us have forgotten that you and Ken and Maria and Janet all made big adjustments to make the Cafe on Main possible, and it is being well used, believe me, by a variety of people. So thank you, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. Honestly, it was a pretty easy decision, Steve, to move out of there so that we can make that space available. I wish I had thought of it, but I didn't, and I'm glad you guys did. So I miss my whiteboards, but I'm glad they're being used. Okay, I'm glad they're being used. I follow the story that gets written on there sometimes, so I'll need to stop in and see where we're at with that. Yeah, yes.
A small capital project. What's the status of additional bicycle storage?
What's the status of additional bicycle storage? If I knew that answer, Greg, I wouldn't be doing my job. So I'm going to ask my team, does anyone have a response for Greg? Do we have a status? It looks like Ken's being forced to answer.
So I'm not being forced. We're partnering, the management team is partnering to evaluate all space in our community. I know the one thing is, let's just buy another big thing for bike storage. But it's really a systematic issue that we're looking at. Are all the bikes in the bike storage being utilized right now? Are they being utilized by residents that live here? What are some of the other storage spaces that we actually have in our community that we're not really using effectively or efficiently? So we are pulling a team together, and I'm looking at Mary because she's really been a benefit here of really supporting this effort to look at our space inside.
So Melissa and I have both
worked on the south building as far as space. We're just finishing up with the north building to see if there's any additional space that we can find some storage for or move some other things. We did get a few additional spaces in the bike shed, and I believe that some newer residents have moved their bikes in there. So we are working on it, and we should be, before the end of the year, we'll have some information on additional space.
Can you hang out for a second? Let me just comment on that. And Greg, thanks for the question. I think it's important to point out that with every request that we get, I've worked with our team, and they are doing a good job at this, at not just responding with a yes or no or trying to satisfy the question. And you heard some of that in the response here. Okay, so there's an issue with capacity for bike storage, right? So the answer isn't just going to be to add something, it's to evaluate what is the issue. What do we know? What are the facts around the issue? Are all the bike slots, is the current storage being optimized, right? That's an important element here in figuring out, okay, and if they are being optimized, then what's the next step? Or if they're not, what's the next step after that? So it's an important part of how we try to operate, which is to hear the question, dig into what is the reality around the question, and then being able to see the whole picture. You know, Dr. Braverman did a workshop for our management team on observation, on really being very specific about and factual about what we're actually seeing versus what we're perceiving. And it was really useful. And so I think that's a good example. So Greg, the answer is we're working on it, but we want you to know that working on it doesn't mean we have it on a list and we're going to get to it at some point. It actually means that we're evaluating the conditions around the issue so that we can find an appropriate answer. Joe?
At the north end of the garage, there's a bike storage, and there's a couple of bikes there with absolutely flat tires.
So they haven't been used?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know if they belong to people who are no longer here or what it is, but there's certainly room there.
Right, thank you for that. And that's the kind of thing we need to figure out. Same with cars. There's some cars that have maybe, I don't know, a quarter inch, a half an inch of dust on them. They haven't moved. And so we have to gather that data. I think.
Okay. I have some concerns, and I wonder if everybody else in this room is too. We got a notice about the programs that, or the trips that Maria Freda has planned for us. And as part of that notice, it said you're looking for chaperones. Would you please explain what that means? We're concerned about residents being involved in that.
Yeah, and I noted that from the Residents' Council meeting that was a question in terms of liability and risk and so on. Maria's not here, so I can't speak for her. But what I do know is this, that we have an express need across the community to be creative and accommodate a wide variety, an ever-shifting variety of program. To the point where some of you have complained that there's too much going on because you're forced to choose between one thing or another, right? You mentioned it with the Dorvey presentation, there was something else going on, and that's just sort of how life works. We have to make choices. So as we do that, we need to think about capacity to continue to grow programs, to continue to have a diversity of offerings, and to make them work, to work in a sustainable manner. We don't want to do things in a one-off fashion that we can't repeat reliably over time. So we have to think sort of systematically about these things. And so when it comes to the trips, we're trying to create the ability to do more trips and not incur additional cost, right? Because there's only one Maria, right? We only have a few people to do these things. So how can we do that? Well, volunteerism is a way to go, right? If folks are interested in, sort of being a volunteer on a trip, then we want to encourage that, because that's a level of engagement that some of you are still looking for. There's sort of a vocational sense of well-being, right? Or there's a sense of well-being that comes through vocation. And so being engaged in that way is something that we want to create opportunities for. So it solves multiple issues. So I don't know the details here. We'll make sure that Maria talks about that more clearly, at least at the next town meeting, if not before. But I'll tell you this, in terms of the question around risk, my limited knowledge of insurance does suggest to me that there is no liability per se to a resident who is volunteering for a Whitney Center program.
However, that is a big responsibility.
Sure.
If God forbid something happens.
Yeah, God forbid something happen. And so that means the way we equip volunteers to do a thing, right, is really important. We want to have appropriate training. We want to support them so that they're confident in whatever they're volunteering for. So that's really important. Tomorrow morning, I believe, Jeff and I have a call with our insurance broker, and we have a number of questions for them. So I will bring this one up just so I can, be sure that I'm not misunderstanding the risk.
And if you do not get a volunteer, does that mean the program would be canceled?
Not automatically, but potentially, yeah, right? Because if people need some help, right, if residents need some help to go on a trip and we don't have the staff to do it, we're not going to put people, that's a greater risk to those residents and to the organization. So we have to weigh these things.
And there's no chance that staff will pick up that?
Well, so you tell me, okay? I'll go back to the trade-offs for the capital expense dollars. We don't employ excess staff, or that's not our intent. In some areas, we're probably sub-optimized and we can be a little bit more efficient, granted. But we don't employ excess staff to pick up a new workload, more workload, right? So the probability of someone being of a staff person who's already paid to do a job to now take them and put them over here, right, is very low, because who's going to do that job that person's being paid for? So the real answer, so there's a couple answers to this. If we are 100% optimized, which is really pie in the sky kind of thinking, right, then the only choice is to hire additional people. If we are not 100% optimized, then we might have capacity, but we got to find it and make sure we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul. So we have to think about these things. So volunteerism is a big deal. You guys, the residents here volunteer quite a bit. But let me tell you something. We do not have a well-coordinated volunteer program. And I think that's a deficiency for us. In fact, one of our strategic initiatives is to fund a paid volunteer coordinator so that we can set up the infrastructure, the training, the systems to recruit volunteers both internally and externally, and align those volunteers with opportunities for volunteering. And to do that effectively, I believe that we need a paid volunteer coordinator. Now, to add that salary and benefits to our budget, we don't have that kind of margin, quite frankly. So what we're doing is we're looking at funding, and it could be an endowed position. It could be done through philanthropy that generates the funding for that kind of salary for a paid volunteer coordinator. So we're trying to think creatively about how we can solve that issue that you're bringing up, Evelyn, right, with resources that we currently don't have. Okay? Well, hold on, Chris. There was a question up. One second.
Quick question. Until this is, it just occurred to me, is this something Dorvey could help with temporarily until it was got,
You know, it's a vetted person. It's not volunteer. The
Yeah.
volunteer
It's
isn't
interesting.
organized yet. It's just a thought that occurred
Yeah.
to me.
It's interesting. So I meet with the CEO of Dorvey every week. We have an ongoing conversation, and because he's trying to continue to learn what needs that organization can fill. And I'm learning from him what he's seeing across these hundreds of communities that they're in so we can be better. I'll bring that up to him, but he did make clear to me that one of the criteria for adding any services, it has to add value to Dorvey, right? Because they're a for-profit company, they actually have shareholders, right? So they have a responsibility to add value. So they're not a not-for-profit that is more mission-oriented. So it's a fine line, but I'll bring it up. Okay. Deb, I think we had someone over here. In the meantime, Chris, go ahead.
So my question is, going back to the bike storage, which was a question that came up in the spring, I believe. I mean, it's been around for a long time, which makes me think about the lack of communication here, which I think is a very important thing for us to think about. As you said, our time horizon is not your
Right.
time horizon.
Right.
So we're looking for answers a lot faster than you are. We're looking for answers about the new rug up on the 6th floor. We're looking for answers about the bike storage. We're looking for answers about seeing the report from the SDS, which only went to a couple of people or one committee instead of
Yeah.
faster that's what I'm saying.
I hear you. I hear you. And believe me, you're going to, I get a lot of eye rolls and heavy sighs when I try to push to go faster and faster. But here's the reality. I don't do the daily work that these people do. And so I have to be sensitive to the workload that they have and the priority. And we hear you. Right. Great, and I think Lynn did that today, didn't she? And she promised you to send it, so good. Okay, don't you think we need we, management, should have the ability to vet that report before we just distribute it? I mean, what if there are wrong facts in there? We've got a third party coming in and evaluating what we're doing. They're not perfect. Certainly, we're not perfect, and there's the opportunity for communication breakdown there too. They may have some assumptions that they're making that aren't correct. We ought to be able to vet that report to make sure that it's factually correct before irresponsibly distributing it, and then we have to walk back on issues that we could have taken care of ahead of time.
But they could have said to us, we have a report, it'll be out in a week. Look for it.
Okay? So here we are 2 weeks hence. Right? I hear you. You want it faster. Right? We've got 100 priorities that everyone here is dealing with. It's not that we don't want to do it faster, Chris. There's only so much we could do at a time. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Apropos, that so much things you can do at a time. I have a question about the management team, how it operates, and what happens here at these meetings. When a member of the management team makes a promise, I'm going to send out a memo, if not today, tomorrow. Is anybody in the management team puts it on the list of something, old business? Is it completed? Is there any checking of what happens here if it gets actually done?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I am trying not to run an organization where I have my thumb on everyone to make sure they're doing the things that they promised to do. Okay? It is a culture here. If any one of us promises to do a thing and we don't do it, you will hold us accountable for it, for sure, right? And we should hold each other accountable for it. But most importantly, the person who makes a promise is responsible to do that thing. I don't come back and check off, okay, Lynn promised to do this. Did she do it? No one wants to work in that kind of organization. If we are not fulfilling our promises, if we are not being accountable to the things we say, then we need to talk about those things. And if for some people, if we need to put those accountability measures into place, we'll do that. We'll help them be more accountable to the promises that they make. But there is no, the short answer is no, there's no checking, there's no micromanagement of Lynn. I'm not going to come back to Lynn and say, did you send that out? Because I expect that she will send it out because she said she would. So you may not be happy with that answer, but that's the culture we're trying to aspire toward, is one where our people can make decisions, can make promises, and fulfill those, and we can equip them to fulfill those promises.
But that means, in a sense, there is no quality assurance system, which it's hard to believe.
Well, what is the system? A quality assurance system requires feedback about the experience, and it requires a mechanism for that feedback, and it requires that the team receiving that feedback is able to then respond, right? There's a loop there. It seems like there's a system, whether you like it or not, or recognize it or not. This forum is part of that feedback. The Residents' Council is part of that feedback. The Dining Service Committee is part of that feedback. The Health Services Committee is part of that. So we have a whole structure of feedback that comes to the management team. Every committee of the Residents' Council has assigned staff that go to those committee meetings to hear that feedback. And when we hear it and engage with the leadership of those committees and the council, we engage in solution finding and troubleshooting solution finding. And so there is an accountability system. It's just not a traditional micromanage type system.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Thank you. Wow, we filled up the time. Look at that. Listen, I do want to say one thing, and I know this has been on the minds of many people. And it's regarding, and it was mentioned, Judith, you mentioned it, that was brought up at the council meeting around ICE procedures. We have a general policy around any regulatory agency, law enforcement agency that comes onto Whitney Center property and how we handle that. Okay? It was brought to my attention that I think we were a little lax in the training, because some of you went to our front desk staff and asked them, and they were like, oh, we're not sure. So, Ken, can you just briefly comment on what we've done there?
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so we took the policy and really put a procedure in there, very specific procedure to all the front desk personnel and all of the security personnel. So we sent it out, we resent it out to make sure that everyone is actually educated on this procedure. It's very precise. So we did that last month. We're doing it again, and we know this is a live topic, and we will make sure, and and I know you do. You go ask your staff. So we will make sure that every person that covers that desk understands that procedure. So. Well, the policy is that when somebody comes into this, to our organization, taking a step back, we abide by all the laws, rules, and regulations. So that's the first thing that you need to understand. If somebody does come in and ask to deal with a specific issue, the front desk people will bring that person to a certain location, and they will call actually a senior manager to validate the requests of what's going on. And so we have senior managers that are on call 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So if somebody comes in on the weekend, if somebody comes in the evening, there are senior managers that are available to address the situation on the spot. So that's how we deal with this right now. But just so you know, we do have to vet if we have a request, and that's why we want a senior manager vetting that. But we've told our staff to welcome the person in and put them to bring them to a conference room, and then we will greet that person there and vet what the issue is or what their request is.
May I say that that's really not the issue we're dealing with? We're dealing with ICE, and we have to recognize that this is different than people who come and ask to enter Whitney Center. So there has to be some security system that keeps people out. And it has to be really, I think, strong and effective. So that would be one comment. And I'm not sure how to actually implement that, but it's not business as usual anymore, I think, in terms of visitors.
Yeah, let me just say this. ICE is a federal agency. We are required by law to abide by all regulations, right, to work with federal, state, local authorities. We cannot and will not, as a not-for-profit organization, resist a federal or state or local agency.
So what do you do if a vehicle comes up to the front door, which is dark, with the windows dark, and people come out who are masked and unidentified and demand entrance into Whitney Center?
Yeah, we call the police.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's good to know.
We have a buzzer. We can call the
That-
police.
that-
If there's any perceived threat
Mhm.
at any entrance, that's the procedure.
So I think that's what
Okay.
I'm asking about. The
Good.
other thing I'd like to mention in relation to this is, what does the staff know about the policy? Because I'm sure that people who are working here are nervous and have to be, particularly mostly of people of color. They'll be identified whether as such, whether they're citizens or not citizens, and we know that's happening. Should they be included in actually knowing what the process is and how they're being protected?
Yeah.
I think they should be.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you. I think through the policy, the dissemination of the policy, I guess we reach some staff, not all staff. And I hear you. I can argue with you because I'm an immigrant myself. I'm a person of color myself, and I have no fear. Okay? Now, I'm in a different situation than many people who work here. So I want to be sensitive to that, absolutely. And so we need to, I think, I'd like to think about that in terms of how we go beyond just the people who are implementing the policy to make sure everyone understands what the policy is.
They have to have a legal document or reason for entering or asking to see someone.
Yeah, but we're not gonna leave that up to the reception staff to determine. That's why they're.
You're right.
Right.
But I
That's-
mean, people
yeah.
need to know that. If people if they come in
Oh, yeah,
and don't
the
have
policy, yes, if it were me responding as a senior manager, okay, let's see your documentation, let's see
right.
what you have. This is private property and all the rest of it. But we're always going to work with them, abiding by the law. Okay. Right. Oh, yeah, and I'll just say this, too. Just so you all know, 100% of our staff are credentialed through the I-9 process in terms of their legal right to work and ability to work here. So we do that vetting, that processing. Okay. Okay, I think we are done. Thank you so much.